Nut Nerd Podcast, episode 245, Camp Tech Spectacular.
Welcome to the Nut Nerd Podcast. I'm Nate Heath, and we are here to help you tech better. Here with me, as always, Mr. Dave Baylor.
Well, hello there, Nate. You and I have been jet setting.
Yes.
I'm using air quotes. Car setting all over the Pacific Northwest, and we even drove on some of the same roads.
Yes, I might have even passed you yesterday as we were both returning home, and you made the ill decision to stop by In-N-Out, which is still a ridiculously long line in Kaiser, Oregon.
I can't wrap my head around. It's one of those things. It's when it's you know the old adage, everyone who drives slower than me is an idiot, and everybody who drives faster is a maniac, right? So
yes.
we come at things from our point of view. And I'm just thinking, well, I want an In-N-Out hamburger, so I'm going to stop by there. But I'm thinking, why does everybody else want one of these? They're idiots. Go home.
Yes.
Why are you waiting in line?
Yes, it is one of the adventures many people are still taking. When did that open? Was that January, December? It was December. It was before Christmas break, because I said, I need to go. Well, you and I went on opening day. You can go to PDX Fast Foodie on YouTube to watch the video, but it was right before Christmas break, and I said, oh, Christmas break's going to be crazy because everybody's off school, and then everybody's been off school for 6 months.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing, is that people don't have any jobs to go to.
Yeah, they need something to do. But anyways, you had the great idea, since you were camping, and I was actually living the life of luxury in a way too big rental house in Sun River, Oregon, because some of the family wasn't able to make it, but to talk just about some camping tech. Now, full disclosure, since I have a 4-year-old, it has been over 4 years since I have gone camping, but I have done quite a bit of camping, and I might be able to chime in with some of my vacation tech that I utilized over the last week. But
that's no excuse, Nate, because we brought pack and plays with our kids and put them in the tent with us. So you can take your child camping. I didn't know if you knew that or not.
Yes. We have talked about it many a times. We have not gotten around to it yet. We have 3 or 4 tents for some reason in our garage. We've got most of this camp tech. It's just hasn't made it onto our schedule yet.
Well, without any further ado, we should probably talk about the technology that to help people not only tech better, but to camp better. And so I threw together a bunch of bullet points just of some things, and there's some links that I shared so that you could see what we're talking about, and maybe we want to include them in the show notes. But you can't really camp and go somewhere if you don't know where you're going, right?
Yes.
One of the most brilliant things ever devised by man is GPS, and you might have a GPS in your car. On your cell phone or on your computer, you've got Google Maps and Google Earth and a myriad of other mapping technologies to help you find where you want to go. And it's not just limited to like a map. There are websites dedicated to hiking and camping. There are you can go to various governmental websites to learn about the different state and national campsites that are available. So starting with maps is a great place to start, trying to find a place to camp. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention my number one tech item for camping. And this came in useful this weekend because we were at a site that had no power. It was just...
Oh, wow, you were roughing it.
Yeah, it had running water and toilets, which, is very handy. I will just say that.
Yes.
I wish they would invent a water tablet. You buy a tablet, and then you just add water, and it makes water. Is that a thing?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Then
makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. But anyway, it's a power brick, some type of battery device to charge, everything. First thing we think of is our phones or our tablets. We want to charge those things. But what about an electric lamp? Or what about a small portable fan? There's other types of gadgets that need power to run. What if you have some type of a CPAP machine? There's a gentleman who camped with us a couple years ago who has one of those and had a big battery that he could plug into there. And so a battery is great. And I put a link to a couple batteries that you can purchase and find on Amazon. But today's battery packs come not only with power, but with lights built in, like a built-in flashlight, a built-in solar panel. I mean, you name it. A compass, a little compass that's built into the one that I have. It's incredible. So, Nate, when you go camping or when you go out of town, I should say, do you bring like one giant battery pack or a bunch of little ones, or what's your deal?
Well, I usually have about 3 in my car of random sizes, but and I believe you were close to your car. I was going to add that one thing we did use on our trip is we had some rafts and we used a power inverter to plug in a inflator and use that. We had one cigarette connector one and then one that just had a regular plug-in, so the power inverter. But I do have a the 20,000 milliamp battery pack, and then I went camping once and my buddy had it was basically a car battery in a container
case,
that he was able to charge many devices over most of the time. But these are key for this stuff, and we've talked before, the solar panel ones, that's maybe if you're going a little more backpacking and you're really gonna be in an emergency situation, because those do not usually charge very quick.
No, it's if you're camping for several days and you just want to, let's say you're charging your phone on the way into the backcountry, you set it in the sun for a couple days and then you charge your phone on the way back out or something like that. But we have plenty to cover, so I'm going to move on. But there are a couple links there, some cool products. I remember this one cable. It's like you always forget a cable, or I got this one cable but not another cable, and this device, the light needs a USB-C, but my phone has a lightning connector, and it's just like, why can't we just decide on one cable? Well, you purchased for me a couple years ago the multi-cable. It's a black cable that's got I think it's a mini connector, but it's got an integrated adapter to connect it and make it into a lightning and a USB Type-C. So that one cable is really all you need to bring along with you to power 3 separate styles of devices.
Yeah.
And when you're packing, going into the backcountry, or as Elliot would be going into the outback, you don't want to be hauling around spider's nest of cables. You just want one cable to rule them all. Now, that's also a single point of failure, but,
Yes.
So your mileage may vary there. And then what better device to bring with you camping than a drone? Why wouldn't you, in the great outdoors, bring a quadcopter or an aerial flying device of some sort?
Because of trees, Dave?
Oh, now I have some stories I could tell you about trees.
Yes.
I'll save those for later. DJI, our friends who make the Mavic series of drones and others, makes a nice, relatively affordable, small Mavic mini drone that you can take with you camping, hiking, backpacking, whatever. Fits in your pocket. There's a great photo opportunity. You pop it out, you fly it in the air, you take a couple photos or videos, you put it back in your pack. It costs about $400. You can spend as much as you want on extra batteries and stuff like that. But if you're going to be buying like a camera to capture the great outdoors for $1,200 with this big zoom lens and all this stuff, why not consider a small Mavic Mini, which does not require licensing by the FCC to operate? But you should be aware that most, if not all, national parks will not allow you to operate a drone. Detroit Lake, we stayed in a national, that's where we went, by the way. We stayed in a national campsite, which you technically shouldn't fly a drone, but there's a state park on the other side of the lake, and I believe the lake is owned by the state. So I flew it over the lake. I was standing in the national forest, but I was flying it over the state lake. So anyway, too much details there. Lights. I mentioned that battery packs often come with lights. You can find any type of light you need these days. I was talking to my buddy Chris, superfan Chris. I said, I need to get one of those Coleman propane-powered lights. You light the little sock deals.
Yeah.
They get super bright. He's like, don't do it. Just go buy an LED work light or a dedicated camping light, charge it up or put your batteries in it. It'll last several days.
Yeah. It
doesn't burn anything. You can take it into the tent with you. It doesn't give off carbon monoxide or whatever.
Yes.
And I was just like, you know what? It is another electrified tech gadget, but that's probably the right thing to do. So you're going to need a light. And if you just get a couple that are battery powered, you are good to go. Even a flashlight at this point would be wonderful.
Yeah. I have fond memories of my huge Maglite flashlights, with the 4D batteries.
Yeah.
That were like 5 pounds. And we had the same thing as a kid growing up, the Coleman propane
Right.
that was always out of propane, or, we were worried our canvas tent was going to burn down, and or the electric heater. I did just take a quick look to see if there was good camping heaters out there that were similar, that I had to imagine technology has advanced for that as well, where you can...
So that's why you bring along the spouse, and that's why you get a good sleeping bag.
The double-person sleeping bag for the body heat.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've never had to utilize a camping heater, but I'm sure that could certainly be a thing. I've even seen devices that you burn fuel and it creates electricity that you can charge your phone with.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy stuff like that. That's for like really backwoods.
Yes.
We recently moved, kind of switching topics. We bought these large self-inflating mats a few years ago. You roll them up and it squeezes all the air out of it. And then you open the valve and there's like memory foam in there, and it absorbs the air and kind of inflates itself up. They're great because they're easy to operate and maintain. They're not great because they take up a ton of space. I mean, they're about the size of a sleeping bag, but a little bit longer. And so we recently picked up at Costco, but they're also available on Amazon, these Cascade Mountain Tech mats. They're super thin. You just put a little bit of air in them, and they've got these kind of little pillow pockets all across them. And as you lay on them, it distributes the weight across, so it fills up the whole thing. You can really put a lot of air in there if you want. I found that to be rather uncomfortable and very much like sleeping on a board. But they fold up to be the size of about a Yeti 20-ounce thermal mug. That's about how small they fold up to. That is a far cry from the sleeping bag and a half sized ones that we've been using. You can stick them in your backpack if you're camping, but the technology angle is what I want to talk about. The material they're made out of, the design of the pillows and all the stuff that go throughout is super advanced. They've got it dialed in. If they get dirty, mild soap and water can wash them off. They're kind of this nylon material, uber strong. But I highly recommend those if you don't want to be hauling all kinds of cots. Like some of my friends that traveled with us, they had full cots and different stuff like that, which are phenomenal. But man, that's a lot of infrastructure to carry along with you.
Yes. Oh, good point. Those look very nice. Again, memories. Walk down memory lane. We had like the full like bed-size egg carton mattresses that we would take with us that just get dirty instantly.
Yeah.
And they do not compress whatsoever. You can roll them up and that's about it. But yeah, the technology on this stuff that, I mean, this would be great for backpacking because it would take up zero room, but even just for regular camping to have, because, famously a 5-person tent fits about 1.5 people comfortably. So
you divide by 2 or 3.
Compact. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have the best night's sleep the few nights that we were there. And I do have a shoulder issue that I'm nursing. But overall, it was completely fine.
Compared to camping on the ground,
which... Ouch.
I've done way too many nights in my life. You got to have something under there.
Well, we're almost done, but this next topic, you probably have a little more information than me with some of your connections, but a pocket knife. I do not think you could ever go wrong by giving a responsible younger child, a grandfather or a grandmother or anything in between a Swiss Army knife. They are beautiful to hold and look at. They are multifunctional depending on the style that you get. They are, contrary to what you might think, relatively safe. I mean, they have some sharp blades on there, but even the dumbest of children is not really going to try to hurt themselves with a knife. It's generally by an accident, right?
Yeah.
So a Swiss Army pocket knife is my tool of choice when I'm out camping. I've got one with a couple blades on it. It's got an awl if I ever had to like sew a sail from my wrecked ship into clothing or something like that. It's got a standard screwdriver as well as a little Phillips head, and that's about it. I mean, there's like a fish hook remover or something on there. Not for me, but it's small and it fits in my pocket, and I carry it with me everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, multi-tool, these are the classic ones, and it's going to be good enough for 90% of the time. And, I've got so many knives and axes and everything from over the years that I usually load myself up with like a Batman utility belt and carry all this stuff around camping and then don't end up using anything. You just need something small to cut a piece of twine or something once in a while, but there's a million options for that.
I can imagine you with like a bandolier across your chest with like an axe, a knife, bear spray, and all this stuff.
all that good stuff. No, good old pocket knife though. And they even have ones with lights built into them now and everything.
Mhm. Even USB sticks if you needed to store data on your knife.
Which I probably would have my laptop if I was camping, so
Yeah.
that might come in handy for me.
Well, knives are pretty low tech. I mean, they've been around forever. It's a piece of metal that's sharp.
Yes.
Got a pointy end on it usually. That's about it. Well, on the basic tech, we didn't use these, but some of our friends had these and we used them to wash our hands and stuff. But a shower bag. It is a plastic bag with a handle on top that usually has some type of black plastic or some way that the thermal from the sun will help warm the stuff. It's very handy just to have one of these in your dishwashing station, or if you have a communal area where you need to wash hands, or if you literally wanted to take a shower with one, you could. It would kind of be a painful process. And you better hope people are a long ways away from you, because I think the only way you can do this is to nail it to a tree and just let it rip. I was really impressed with, and I was thinking, I really need one of these because it was so convenient just to have a source of water right at your campsite to wash your hands or to rinse a pot, or, I mean, you could use it to drink or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
No, those are nice. The solar showers.
And they're cheap too. They're like $20, you know.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to pick one up for our next camping adventure just to have near our place so that we don't have to walk. Now, Nate, what if I told you there was a device out there that could take the place of your compass? It could take the place of your GPS and your mapping. It could take the place of a camera, your flashlight. Can you imagine that a device like this exists?
And it could all fit in your pocket?
Oh, I forgot to mention, it can fit in your pocket. This is, of course, I'm talking about a smartphone. In my case particular, the iPhone.
Yeah.
Many of the things I mentioned before, the lights, all the stuff, finding how to go camping, apps to help you find hiking trails, all this stuff can be done just from your phone. You don't even really need a computer anymore. The phone has become your computer. And speaking of apps, some of the things that I listed that you may or may not be thinking of when you're going camping is download a good hiking app that talks about all the trails that are in the area that you're going to be hiking on that you can reference while you're there. But many of them have maps that you can download, so if you don't even have internet access, you can still use them. The GPS continues to work on your phone whether you have internet access or not. First aid apps. I've downloaded a couple different first aid apps.
Nice.
Let's say Joey is using the axe and chops his little pinky toe off. What do you do? What are you going to do? You got to have that first aid app. The answer is always apply dirt. Just rub dirt and whatever. That's usually the answer. I've had fun with this type of app before, the Peak Finder app. You just pan your phone around and it'll be like, that's Pikes Peak, or that's Three-Fingered Larry, or whatever the stuff is out here. That's Mount Shasta.
Jack.
Yeah, that's right. That's Mount Shasta, and it's like, if that's the case, you're a little too far south. You might need to come north.
Wandered off a couple 100 miles.
Yeah, I've had fun with those in the past. And we mentioned a few weeks ago stargazing apps.
Yeah.
Never before have you seen so many stars than when you're out camping.
Yes, even where we were, we took a nighttime walk with Isla because she had way too much energy from way too much sugar. Myself and my parents, we were looking up, and when we went out, we just saw the first two, like, couple brightest stars. So my dad had the app. He's a big stargazer, so he looked at them, and then by the time we did just a little loop of a walk and came back, there was just stars everywhere. And yeah, those stargazing apps, much like the Peak Finder, having that stuff. I was going to mention something on the maps side of things. With most mapping applications, Google Maps, Apple Maps, you can do offline maps because maybe you don't have cell service or strong cell service when you're out there, that you can actually store some of that stuff in there so that even if you're offline, your phone is still very functional. So that's
right. And I just have two other categories of apps that you probably haven't thought of before when you go camping, but that's a recipe app. There are many great recipe apps that you can download that will tell you, like, different campfire cooking. There's websites, of course, as well, and I'm including that here. If there's a website that's like how to cook potatoes or eggs or whatever over a campfire, you might get that on your phone so that if you want to be experimental on your trip, you can find some of this stuff and make it and enjoy it. You know, outside of just hot dogs and s'mores, which is basically what we brought. That was it. My wife is like, well, what should I bring for food? I'm like, hot dogs. Okay, so what else should we bring? Should I pack some stuff for salad? I'm like, hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
And I'm not even eating the buns. I do them. Sometimes I just eat them right off the stick. If I'm feeling fancy, I will put it on a paper plate and eat it with my fingers. But that's about it. And then last but not least, I have been interested in this in the past, but this is the power user if you're going to be doing this. And this is using a variety of the fauna and flora identification apps, like a bird finding app or trail guides that show you the different plants and insects and those type of things. They're not always... I'll give you some of my experience. Let's say a tree identification app, for example. I have a leaf. Okay, so now I have to look through 9,000 leaves to try to find which tree this is. Or the same thing with, like any other plant or a bird.
Mushrooms. Yeah, my dad has a mushroom book that's like 3 volumes, and we were trying to find something that was just in his backyard, and
it's like, can I eat this thing or not? That's all I really want to know. I have seen some where you take a photo of these various leaves and it's supposed to recognize it. Your mileage may vary, but I have not had good luck with those. But for the intrepid explorer who really wants to learn about the area around them, having one of those apps on your phone is indispensable. You can be on a hike and see something interesting, pull up the app and be like, that's a genus Lupus hydrangea carnivore Homo sapien right there that I'm really interested in learning about. That's about it. That is all you need. I'm going to just say the minimum, your iPhone with a bunch of stuff on it and a power brick.
Yes.
What else do you need?
I don't know.
What else do you need?
I was looking through a article that had, the top 20 camping tech things. And one thing we didn't mention on the lights, a good headlamp.
Oh, yeah.
Goes a long way, and you can get some really nice cheap. They're not the big old like spelunker ones that you used to have where you have to like wear a helmet and a neck brace to hold it on your head.
You light it, it's a candle in there.
It's propane next to your hair is a good one. And also like a good lighter. We've talked about some, there's little pocket torches and that kind of stuff for fire starting, unless you're really into flint and if you're a Survivor fan and like to really rough it. I mean, and there's tons of stuff out there. If you're a serious camper or more of a backpacker, you can get some really nice stuff. But if you're just going to a national park where you got a campground and there's some stuff around, I mean, your phone and power, even a portable Bluetooth speaker if you'd like to have some music around the campfire, something like that.
Well, and we considered that, but phones these days have tremendous speakers that are really loud, and so it's like, well, it's just an extra piece of gear I don't have to bring. So, dear listener, please, if you have a favorite camping tech item that you find indispensable, let us know and we'll share it with the community so that others can benefit from your experience.
Yeah, maybe we need to have Elliot on for an addendum since he does actual outdoor adventuring down in Australia and probably has some good things. One thing I do want to mention on the phone too that I think a lot of people forget is that the newer iPhones and many Android phones do have water resistance to them.
I thought you were going to say pocket knives on them, and my ears perked up.
I think there was a case at some point. I had a case with a bottle opener, which might be a good thing to bring along.
But yes, water resistance.
Yeah, since the iPhone 7, they started building in some water resistance there. So camping, you're usually around some water, and you might want to take some pictures in the water. You don't have to be as scared as you used to with your iPhones. I was in a swimming pool, but I took an underwater picture with my phone. I took the case off, dunked underwater, took some underwater selfies. People seem to forget that because people are like, oh, you've got your phone near the water. And it's like, yeah, I'll take it under the water. You don't want to, I think they say like, what is it? Splashes and submerged just over 3 feet for up to 30 minutes without damage is what, at least back on the iPhone 7s, and it's gotten slightly better. But that's, if you're rafting or floating down a river, you don't have to be as worrisome. Except for, I will mention that phones do sync.
Yes.
I have not lost a phone to that, but my dad did. One year as he was floating down the river by himself. Luckily, because I'm me, I had an extra iPhone with me that I got him set up on, so he didn't have to go without. But
hey, Nate, most people are like, hey, did you bring a spare toothbrush? You're like, Nate, did you bring the spare iPhone? I lost mine. I forgot it at home.
And but more Nate story about this. I had 2 extra iPhones with me, and my brother broke his phone. So I was able to take care of 2 of my family members on that trip when their phones went down. So I don't currently have any extra iPhones sitting around, but at that point I had two, and they both went to use that week.
Wow. That
yes.
is an incredible story.
Well, thank you for that, Dave. It's fun to talk about, kind of have a topic. We've talked forever since the beginning of the podcast about maybe doing more topic stuff. So if you guys enjoyed that, if you have another topic you would like us to take a deep dive, please do that. Since we talked about that for quite a while, we're going to kind of mesh the follow-up and the takes. But before we get to that, we got to get to Dave's Pro Tip of the Week.
Yes, you guys have not gotten tired of hearing me speak yet. You want to hear more.
Yes.
One of my friends who was on this trip said, "Hey, you're a tech guy." And I'm like, that's the understatement of the year.
Yes.
And he said, "I have this problem maybe you can solve." And his problem, I think, is shared by many people, as per my research online. If you have a CarPlay enabled stereo in your car and you connect your iDevice to it, it will automatically start playing the last song or the last podcast. And if you don't have any of those queued up, it'll just play the first song in your music. Many people are tired of hearing the exact same song that starts with the letter A every time they get into their car. Why Apple has not fixed this? Why Apple has not put a toggle somewhere in the CarPlay setting that says autoplay last song or don't autoplay last song. And the story the person shared was he listens to a mature podcast where people speak with colorful language. People got into his car, he turns it on, and it was the Joe Rogan experience, right?
Yes.
And they use swear words. It was not a great experience.
Not appropriate for the situation.
Yeah. So I forwarded my friend the information that I'm about to share that may or may not solve your problem. I do not have a CarPlay capable stereo system to test it, but if any of you do, please try this and see if it works. I wish it were as simple as toggling something off. There's a nuclear option of deleting your music app off of your phone.
Yeah.
Just don't use Apple Music at all. That's one way to do it. And that's what I currently do because I use Spotify. And I typically don't even have it installed on my phone because I'm tired of this auto stuff happening all the time. This requires a little bit of automation, and you use the Shortcut app. So what has it been since iOS 16 or 15 or I don't know.
11.
What are we on?
Going into 12. So it must have been 10, iOS 10. You're getting ahead of yourself.
I'm getting my Mac OSs and all this stuff mixed up. So yes, for the past several iOS iterations, I will say, the Shortcuts app has been installed just from the manufacturer on your device. And this is a tremendous app that will allow you to do various things. We've talked before about how when Nate's going to come visit me, it'll send me a text and it'll say, hey, I will be there in X amount of minutes, because the automation on the phone will open a map, calculate the distance between he and I, send a text. It's all very convenient. One other convenient thing you can do is set up an automation to control the media playback. And I'm going to just quickly step through this. If there's someone who can use it besides my friend, great. If not, just forget I even said anything. But step one is launching the Shortcuts app on your phone. At the bottom of the application, there are 3 icons. One of those is an automation icon. I always forget this icon. I'm hitting the plus button, I'm doing whatever. It is not a very well-designed app, if you ask me. But there's an automation at the bottom. You click that, then you click the plus button to create a new automation. And when that opens up the next screen, you want to create a personal automation. That is the option. There are 2 options there. When you create the personal automation, you got to scroll down and find the section titled CarPlay. And you click that. And then there will be a screen called New Automation at the top. And the option there is to choose Connects. So you're going into Automation, CarPlay, and then you want to do something when the CarPlay connects. So this is kind of like a little flow chart. So you hit the next button, and then you go into the next step. There will be an icon in the middle of your screen that says Add an Action. You press Add an Action. You choose in the media area the play pause item, which is in the playback section. Some of these automations are grouped in sections. And again, your mileage may vary depending on which version of the operating system you have. But this should work in anyone that has Shortcuts. then you click next, and there's a little box that you can see that says, do you want me to ask you to approve this before I run it or not? I would uncheck that so that it just happens automatically. And then you click done. So automation, new automation, find CarPlay. When CarPlay connects, you want to evoke the play pause option. So since the default is to play when you connect your CarPlay, the toggle will switch it to pause. That is the theory of what should happen. Now, you at home are probably listening to a much more succinct version of this because I think I'm going to edit a lot of that to make it clearer. But why don't we go ahead and I'll put a link in the show notes so that you guys can look at this. I found a couple websites, none of them that say this exactly, but they deal with CarPlay. The shortcuts can be a little daunting to the regular iPhone user, and it can be a little scary. But trust me when I say, if you just open it up, it mostly makes logical sense. There's a lot of options in there. You just kind of pick the ones you want and click done. And hopefully when you're complete, you have something to be proud of that when you connect to your car. You don't have to listen to Another One Bites the Dust by Queen every single time that you connect to your car. So
Nice.
that was a big thing. Now, Nate, do you have anything to add to this automation?
I don't have CarPlay, so I don't know, but I do know from the past of that autoplay stuff is so annoying. It was some song by like Vampire Weekend that started with an A that would always just start randomly playing on my phone whenever it connected to something. So I could see how frustrating this would be every time you get in your car. So hopefully that works out for some people.
Yeah, I don't know why Apple doesn't fix it. I guess they just have other things to worry about at this time. I don't know.
Yes. We did have a text message come into our 608-618 nerd the other day from a friend of the show, Jared, and he said, if I sit for 8 hours a day working, sleep for 6 to 7 hours with my watch turned off, then how does my Apple Watch think I've stood for 13 hours during the day? Even if I was only standing during this off hours, that is still only 10 hours. Which I clearly don't, since I also sit to watch a Blazer game or play video games or eat food. And a very simple solution on this that I responded to him with, you only have to move for about a minute for it to count for that hour as your stand goal. So it is not that you stood for an hour, it is that you stood at some point during that hour.
You just have to stand up. It logs it, and then you can immediately sit back down.
Yes.
It is not the time that you were standing, but the number of times you have physically stood up and sit back down.
Yes. Yeah. And if you really want to cheat the system and get more stand hours, plan your bathroom breaks for right at the turn of the hour so you get it for the one before and the one after if you overlap the 2 hours, if you're really trying to cheat the system.
Well, and with my bathroom breaks, it doesn't really matter the time, the start time. It'll cross 2 hour zones regardless.
Yes, and you're getting exercise minutes in there, I hear. Oh, well, on to our takes and follow-up of the week. The big news of the week is that Fortnite has started a battle royale, if you will, with both Apple and Google. Now, we have talked many times about Fortnite. It is a huge game. We have also talked about Apple and Google. They are both huge. In case you didn't know that.
Right.
But so Fortnite pushed an update this last week, and they said they added in a feature within the iOS and the Google Play apps where you could directly buy what are they, V-Coins?
V-Bucks.
V-Bucks from Fortnite, bypassing the Apple and Google payment platforms, which is direct violation, way to get kicked out of the App Store.
Mm-hmm.
And they did like a 20% discount. Well, very shortly after, Apple and Google took Fortnite off the App Store. And then very shortly after that, it's actually Epic Games, which owns the Fortnite franchise. They submitted lawsuits, I believe, to both companies and, 60-page documents saying they're taking them on. They also had a extra attack on Apple. They created a Fortnite version of the famous Apple 1984 commercial.
Yes, and last night when I turned Fortnite on my Nintendo Switch, that video played.
Wow.
It was more of like a PR thing. It had some text that said, "Hey, join us in the fight against Apple for their tyranny," or whatever.
Yes.
Even on other platforms, they were showing this video.
Wow. Yeah, so they are definitely, shots have been fired by Epic Games. We've been talking for, a month or two now. There's kind of been this antitrust stuff, and some people have been pretty upset with Apple with, the 30% that they charge for in-app purchases. And I mean, if anybody's going to take them on, Fortnite is a great one to do it. They are, an independent gaming platform, and they make a ton of money selling their V-Bucks, so they have some funding. Now, their money does not touch Apple or Google's war chests.
No.
Loot crates, if you will. But what's your take on this, Dave? I mean, it's a very complicated thing. There's a lot of developers that don't like how much Apple and Google charge. I did hear, Microsoft and all the other Sony, the gaming platforms, they charge 30% as well. So it's a very convoluted thing. We'll see what comes out of it. But what's kind of your thoughts as more of a gamer than I am?
Well, Rene Ritchie, I have a link to the video in our show notes, did a great job explaining the whole process. And one thing that struck me was that Epic Game Launcher, which is what you install on these platforms. With Fortnite, it's just it'll just launch. But what they want is to put their own store, especially like on Android. This is how it works. You put the Epic Game Launcher store on your device to install the individual games. And third parties have submitted their games to Epic's launcher store on Android. So they are, in effect, being their own app store, charging their own 30% to other outside people. And so it kind of feels like Epic is trying to bully their way out of Google and Apple's app stores so that they can include their own app store on Google and Apple devices so that they can get 30% royalties on third-party apps that they put on there. So it's kind of like, it's a little disingenuous, it feels like. Yeah. Now, the argument could certainly be made that Apple taking 30% of all in-app purchases and original purchase revenues is a little steep, and it's probably unfair. But at the same time, going against their policies and trying to force Apple and Google into playing ball your way is probably not going to end well for you. And the timing is perfect, as Rene mentioned in his video, because they've clearly have been planning this for a while. I mean, you don't put together a 2-minute computer animated video in a matter of hours. They've clearly had this little jab at Apple ready to go for a number of months, and they were just waiting for the time to be right. So Microsoft tried to put their streaming video game platform on Apple's services, and Apple said, no, you can't do that. Then there's the antitrust hearings that we're talking about earlier. And so now they purposely did something to get kicked out of the store. So it's just another log on the fire. It's just some more fuel to get Congress to take a look at Apple. So that's a little more detail. As a gamer, I think I really wish that I could just play whatever games I wanted on all these platforms and I didn't have to worry about all of the politics and headaches and stuff. But at the same time, I'm an Apple fan and to an extent a Google fan, and I want those platforms to be maintained. I want them to be safe. I don't want all this malware and garbage, just developers saying, hey, I want to put anything I want on your platform. I don't agree with that either, because you can always get your own device. You can write your own operating system. Yeah. You can write your own store. You can sell it. I mean, nobody's forcing you to use any of these platforms. Yeah. And so to argue that it's unfair, you're treating me unfairly, it is a little disingenuous to me, because I'm like, well, take your ball and go somewhere else. Yeah. Well, there is nowhere else. Well, build the somewhere else. I mean, so that's a simplistic view, but that's kind of where I land, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And on iOS, you can't, unless you jailbreak, which I do not recommend at all, your phone, you can't sideload the game. On Android, you can. You have to go through some steps, but they put in more security, so you can't do that. And I guess on Samsung phones, it's available in the Samsung App Store, Fortnite, because I don't know if they take a less percentage or what, but Yeah, again, it's one of those things where all this politics are in there, and I just want a good experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, everybody, at the end of the day, everybody wants the maximum amount of money. No one is ever
Yes.
satisfied with the amount of money they have, even if it's billions upon billions upon billions. For you and I, it needs to come down to what is good for the consumer. Is it good that Fortnite is on my phone as a consumer? Some could argue, parents could argue, no, it's terrible. Take that thing off of the phones. My kid is on it all day long. And there's PlayStation and there's Xbox and there's Nintendo. They could just take it off of mobile. But I think the secret there is that most of their revenue comes from mobile users.
Yeah.
I think that's the reality. That's why they're fighting this so hard.
Gotcha. Just a quick note here. Google Maps is coming back to the Apple Watch and is now on CarPlay, which we were talking about before. This is almost kind of not news. I am so happy with Apple Maps now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Apple Maps is so great. I was using it while we were over there. They've got, kind of the little 3D renderings of every single house in Sun River, this vacation town, and then Central Oregon. I mean, it is, and I love it because on my Apple Watch, when you have directions going, it'll tap your wrist and you know which way to go. So that'll be coming back for Google Maps if you're using Google Maps.
I've never
on your Apple Watch.
used Google Maps in that way. It's never been working since I've
Yeah.
had an Apple Watch
Yeah.
for it to do the directions on my watch. And so I've always used the Apple Maps for that. And I'm with you. Apple Maps has gotten so much better. I think Google did themselves a disservice by waiting this long to get their
Yeah.
stuff together because they've lost a lot of customers on the Apple platform, I feel.
Yeah. Another story that we talked about back when it was developed, and I see about every 3 days on Facebook somebody freaking out about the coronavirus contact tracing API that Apple and Google did jointly together, completely anonymous. It was developed with security in mind, but being able to trace. And then, here we are months later, and there are a couple states that are using it. I think it is Vermont, Maryland, or Alabama and Virginia. I was close. So they have released them just this month in August. But many other 16 nations, including Japan, Saudi Arabia, Latvia, Gibraltar, and Uruguay, that are relying on this API. So instead of having people go door to door or do phone contact tracing, it does an automated thing if you're in the zone of people. Contact tracing, I firmly believe, is something we need more of with the coronavirus, because at least here in the Portland area or in Oregon, they just have not been able to create a good system for it. But we kind of heard all this buzz about it. Then people were freaking out that their phones were tracing them, which if you don't think your phone's tracing you already, I don't know which rock you've been living under. This did not change any. But I will just remind people, you have to install a specific app for this to be used. And so I want to remind people, since I saw this article that I'll have in the show notes, it kind of got, people were worried about it in general, but from everything I saw from security researchers, they did a pretty good job of creating a system where it's not going to say, oh, well, Dave got coronavirus here and then he did this. It's anonymous. It'll just give you a notification saying, hey, somebody that you were in close contact with 2 weeks ago just tested positive for coronavirus. And
you better get that checked out.
Yes, get that checked out if you can.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't understand that the API lives on your phone. And even on mine, I'm running the beta, but you can go in and see the contact tracing section of your general settings. And you're right. It doesn't do anything. It's just living on your phone. You have to download an application for it to be utilized. So if you don't do anything, don't worry about it. Nobody's has this extra layer of tracing on you, the extra tracking aside from what the FBI is already doing.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the countries, the reason it was announced a few months ago and then you didn't hear anything and now it's back. I think a lot of countries, municipalities, states tried to make their own and discovered, man, this is harder than it looks.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just use Apple and Google's. They are the two largest tech giants on the planet Earth. Maybe we should listen to them. So I think it just took a while for them to do their due diligence and go, we can't do this ourselves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think we had a security and privacy story about one of those failing pretty badly. If not, there's been a couple stories where, it just did not work out when you trust the state to develop the thing. So Todd actually brought this up in the Facebook group, which is always a good place to bring things up that you find or ask questions. There is a Google Plus settlement. So if you ever used Google Plus, click the link in our show notes and you might get a couple bucks. There's something about privacy or something on there. It's
Who knows?
I don't know if the holistic cost will work out what the final payout will be, but if you're into getting any piece of a settlement that you can, click that link and go sign up for the Google Plus settlement. I did it, and did you fill it out, Dave?
I did it. And for those of you who are wondering, if you have multiple Gmail accounts and multiple Google Plus accounts by extension, you can only request a settlement once
one
per
person.
person, not per account. Because I checked, because I got like 30 different accounts. I'm like, I'm going to make tens of dollars off of this.
Yes. Well, there was a big new product announcement. We've had one every week. Microsoft officially announced the Surface Duo device. Now, Dave, they teased this, I believe it was last fall, and this is their version of a foldable device. Some people
It's like
are
a
trying to call
foldable tablet.
some people are trying to call it a phone, but this thing is big. I think it's 20% wider than an iPhone like 11 Pro Max and twice as thick because it's basically two phones with a hinge in the middle. Dave, I know you like the Windows devices, the Windows Phone. This thing, $1,400. I mean, it's not pocketable unless you're wearing Jenko jeans or something. I don't. It runs Android, so it has two screens that can kind of work independent of each other. They have said they made it work with any Android app. Unless they build it for both screens, it'll just work on one screen. I don't know.
Well, I'll make this easy for you. Question 1, do I want this? Yes, absolutely, without question. I want this. 2, will I be spending $1,400 for it? The answer is absolutely not. There's no way on earth that I'm going to spend $1,400 on an Android tablet that folds in the middle. As cool as it is, if I have that kind of money, I'm buying an iPad Pro with the pencil and the Apple keyboard case, and I'm going to do things right. If this thing were like $700, would I still buy it? Probably not, because my daughter's going to college in a week or so. But that would be a tremendous price for something like this. It's a little bit under $1,000. It can be portable if you fold it in half. You can have more screen real estate if you open it up. When they first showed the development images of this, I was very interested, and I'm glad that it's finally here. But for this price, that's just a little too much. Yeah,
I agree. And even like the camera doesn't appear to be that great. We don't have hands-on reviews or anything yet, but there's only one camera on it. It just seems like it's a weird thing
Half-baked.
that nobody really needs, and the specs aren't that great. The battery, we'll see how a battery works. It's a pretty small battery for having two screens you have to power.
Yeah, I do think that this type of device is the future, though, because if I could have a standard like 12.9-inch iPad Pro that folds in the middle, that's more portable, it operates more like a book that I open and close versus a big slab that I got to carry around in a bag. I mean, that is appealing, but the software, the hardware specs that you mentioned, those are not that appealing to me at this point.
No, I agree. Well, I am going to skip our security and privacy story of the week. I came across a couple things, but we've been going on long enough. But I do have two bonus odd takes, and the first one kind of fits into our depressing section of security and privacy story. It's a site you found, and it's is2020over.com. And you go to the website, and there is a big, bold no at the top. We are still in 2020 as we record, and then it goes month by month, talking about all of the lovely things that are happened over this year, and then future dates, it just has black boxes like it's retracted. And will be revealed of what's coming next for this year of 2020.
Yeah, one of the most heartbreaking ones was in May. The first item there is Eurovision Song Contest is canceled, and I know that rocked the world there. So
Yes. Did you watch the Will Ferrell Eurovision movie on Netflix?
I did. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really
yes. It was fun. Go check that out. That'll make you happy. And the other bonus odd take, this one is, speaking of bringing joy,
good. Mm-hmm.
all 31 seasons of Bob Ross's The Joy of Painting are free on YouTube. So what better thing to escape this first website than to go watch some Joy of Painting and just enjoy all that is Bob Ross and his artwork.
They were available on other streaming platforms behind a paywall, and there were free episodes around, but now it's all of the episodes on YouTube for free, as free as Bob Ross painting videos should be.
Very nice. Well, you know what else it should be? Time for our picks of the week.
My pick this week, I usually slant towards the gaming side of things, and when I do that, it's usually on iOS devices. Well, this is a little bit different. I want to highlight a developer whose apps I think are pretty darn cool, and they're just well created and fun to play. And the person is Zach Gage. You can search for Zach Gage in the iOS App Store if you want to, or you can go to one of these apps and click on the more about the developer and it'll show you the apps. But Zach has created a number of games. Sudoku, he has a Sudoku app. He has a chess app titled Really Bad Chess. And they're very simple games, very minimalistic art style. And he's got some tweaks about how you play it. Like chess has got some different modes and stuff. I think standard chess is on there too, but you can do different things to make it kind of more of a simple versus a complex game. I was introduced to him initially by the game titled Flip Flop Solitaire.
Yes.
It's his take on a solitaire game. But there's Type Shift, Spell Tower, in a couple different countries. Apparently there's Netherlands and France and I guess English or American, UK. Sage Solitaire is one that he has. Anyway, check him out. He's even got an app in the Apple Arcade if you subscribe there. The Card of Darkness, which I have not played that, but it's kind of a match 3 tile type game. Check out Zach Gage's apps. Some are free, some are for pay, but they're all very delightful.
Very nice. I was also have in the past had Flip Flop Solitaire, but I'll have to check out some more of those. Well, my pick of the week this week is something that my wife actually said, "Did you ever do this as a pick?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Okay, well, maybe you should." And so I searched it out to find exactly which model we had. So this is something that I actually got on a Woot deal many years ago and kind of relates to my PDX fast foodie persona. It is the Elite Cuisine EGC 207 Egg Poacher Omelet Steamer and Soft Medium Hard-Boil Egg Cooker with Auto Shutoff 7 egg capacity stainless steel.
Well, I thought you were going for an electrocardiogram there with your ECG. I'm like, whoa.
EGC, yes, very close. But yeah, so this is something I saw it on Woot. We eat a lot of hard-boiled eggs. My daughter loves hard-boiled eggs. Eggs are very healthy for you, especially egg yolks. And so we do a lot of these. And so we bought this. It is super simple. You just plug it in, put your eggs in there, put a little water in, turn it on. When it's done, it shuts off. You let the eggs cool, and you've got your up to 7 hard-boiled eggs. Now, I did look around Amazon, and there's a million different versions of these. You can get smaller ones, but this is one of the larger ones, so you can do 7 at a time. And if you do hard-boiled eggs, this is a great, easy, no-brainer. You don't have to do a big pot of boiling water. You just put like a little quarter cup of water in this little machine. It looks kind of like a waffle maker without the top part and a little dome for the eggs to go into, but
yeah, I'm looking at the picture now. This is a very interesting item. I did not even know this existed.
Yeah.
Now, I'm usually against having single application appliances that just do one thing and then sit in your cabinet for the rest of the time. This looks pretty small.
It is.
And I can see it being a lot easier to make your eggs this way than throwing them in a pot of boiling water, because you're right. I mean, you got to sit and wait for the dumb thing to do its deal and to keep track of it, or they get too hard and gross. And it is a kind of a pain. So I can see maybe utilizing one of these things. And I'm always find it humorous when I see signs like this one has where it says hot steam, as if there's another kind of steam,
Yes.
cold steam.
Cold steam.
Yeah, but that's not just this appliance. It's on everything. But I
Yes.
just had to chuckle when I saw that. Up to 7 eggs at a time. Now, how long does it take to steam? Because it's literally just steaming these eggs. What is the time cycle?
I want to say it's about 10 to 12 minutes. So it's a pretty quick process.
It's
super
about-
simple setup, no cleanup because you're not
Yeah,
making a mess.
it's about the same as boiling them once the water's boiled or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
But you can just turn the button on and forget it. Set it and forget it.
Yep.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah. Dave, what would you pay for one of these?
So this appliance that only steams eggs. It's got to have a heating coil in the bottom. It's got a little switch and a light and that wonderful screen printed hot steams
Yes.
message and a handle on the top. It's a very simple device. I'm gonna go $17.99 on this one. I'm
$17.99.
probably low.
You are a little bit low. The current price is $23.79.
$23.79.
And as I mentioned, this is just the one. I probably paid about that when I got the Woot deal. So
Mhm.
there's a million different brands. This one is pretty well rated, 4.5 stars on 670 ratings.
So around $20.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Yeah, so check it out. Some tech you didn't know existed. That doesn't
Didn't
happen
know.
very often.
It
Dave.
doesn't. It doesn't. Especially the kitchen tech. I'm not up on all my kitchen gadgets, so
Yes.
maybe I need to
neither
do
am I.
some Google searches on that.
Yes. Well, our Ramazon purchase of the week. We love it when you guys use our Amazon links to purchase things. Now, this is something that I have been tempted by. I think we might have mentioned them over the last several months because they really came into the lexicon. And I believe I know who purchased this. I'm not going to rat them out on the podcast. But this is the Lux Bidet Neo 120 self-cleaning nozzle, freshwater, non-electrical, mechanical bidet toilet attachment, blue and white.
It was not me, but I am intrigued.
Yes. Yeah, so the bidets went during the great toilet paper shortage of 2020. People were talking about bidets, but I've heard people talk about them for a long time. This is just
Yeah.
a very small device, hooks to the side of your toilet. You pipe in some water, and then it's got a little jet there for cleaning purposes.
So this I may be getting too down and dirty on this, but I'm immensely intrigued, and so I'm going to ask a couple questions that you might be able to answer for me. Is the water just cold tap water, or is it warmed in any way?
I do not see that this one has a warming feature. Now, this again is something that you can spend whatever you would like. I see 2 dials. I see the water pressure off, low, up to high, and then the nozzle cleaning. There's a wash setting and then a nozzle cleaning setting. So this one seems to be very simple. So depending on the temperature of the water coming to your toilet, this could be a very refreshing, invigorating device while cleaning. So I hopefully we'll hear from the purchaser of this, so we can get a little more information on that.
So my second question is, it's water, and it's splashing on your skin, so you're going to be wet. Do you then have to use toilet paper to dry yourself? And if so, you're not saving any toilet paper.
I think the idea is then you are clean, so you could use a towel or a reusable drying material. But again, I've never used a bidet, so I am talking out of turn here. So we'll have to get bidet listeners, please contact us so that we do not mislead people any further.
Science demands answers.
Yes.
We have
there's
to
no
know.
way that we could do it ourselves. We need somebody, one of our listeners, to figure it out. But Dave, I sent you some pictures on this. What would you pay?
Well, as I'm looking at the picture, I think we need to get the Mark and Toddcast to do a special episode on the history of bidets and how they
Yes.
work.
I like it.
So I love this picture. The first picture you sent is a regular looking toilet, although maybe of a European variety.
Yes.
And then this thing's hanging off the side. but the jet of water is shooting out of the toilet
the
and into the room.
Yes.
Like I don't believe that is the design of this feature.
No, sprinkler / bidet.
It's not a watering fountain.
Yes. Before I have you guess, I will let you know that this has 4.5 stars on almost 13,000 ratings on Amazon. It does have a hygienic nozzle guard gate to shield the nozzle for your ultimate sanitary experience.
This makes no sense. You cannot both spray water and shield nozzle at the same time.
Maybe when you turn it off, maybe the shield comes up so that it won't accidentally spray. And it does have a no kidding 18-month warranty on it too.
Yuck.
So
who would want that back?
I'm guessing they probably tell you to throw it away and
they'll refund you the money.
Yes. What's your guess on this, Dave?
I don't know. I'm going to have to say $45. I don't know what the cost of these things. It's probably $100, but $45.
You are pretty dang close for something you know nothing about. $39.95 is the current price on Amazon.
Wow.
So
I mean, it's a very low-tech device. It's basically a spray nozzle that's shaped to go into a toilet.
Yes.
Interesting. I'm just curious if I need to get one of these or not.
Yeah.
Tell you what, Nate, why don't you get one, test it out, and then let me know if I need to get one or not.
And I am looking at the Camel pricing history, and it did jump up to about $60. Looks like February, March, April area, and is now back down to a normal price of $40 because
rush.
We couldn't buy toilet paper.
Interesting.
Well, we have talked at you way too long. Before our voices give out and your AirPods die, we're going to wrap up this episode. Hopefully you enjoyed the deep dive into Camp Tech. Again, let us know if there's a topic you would like us to deep dive into, and we will do that for you. Now get out there and tech better. Or camp better.
And thanks to all of our listeners in Belarus. We see you.
All of our listener.
All of our accidental download by a person.
Yeah. Should we do some claps? 1, 2, 3, clap. Clap.